They just leaked their entire plan. As fans of the Golden State Warriors, we are incredibly lucky to have a star player on the team who is so willing to divulge information mid-season. And of course, I'm talking about Draymond Green. And he just gave us another little nugget that should be incredibly encouraging to Warriors fans and provide a lot of confidence for the season moving forward. And specifically today, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball and how defense wins championships. That mantra has been around in many professional sports leagues for years and years and years. Kevin Durant recently came out and said, you know what, it's actually shot making. It's actually the offensive ability that wins championships. Draymond Green clapping back and saying, nope, that's not how it works. While shooting the ball, being an impressive scorer, offensively talented, those things are important. Defense ultimately wins championships. And I'm not going to lie. Say what you want about Draymond Green, the facts back him up. The 2022 championship, the 2015 championship, both those years for the Golden State Warriors, this team led in defensive overall team rating. We'll get into all that stats and more in today's video. But if you're not familiar with the channel, I want to remind you guys to hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way for you guys to continue to support us. If you have been around for a while, a lifelong subscriber, really appreciate you being around the channel. My name's Houston Bowe. Let's hop right into all the news, and specifically talking about Draymond Green. And as I said, we're lucky to have a guy like him who literally runs a podcast mid-season, always willing to sit down with reporters, and he did just that a day ago. We fired back at Kevin Durant's claim that offense wins championships. And before we get any further into this, I want to acknowledge the fact that, yes, especially in the NBA, being able to score the ball at a high level is incredibly important. But if you look throughout the history of the NBA, those classic guys that have been incredibly talented but don't quite have that ring, the Russell Westbrooks, the Allen Iversons, the McGrady's, guys like that, all those guys were the Allen Iversons. Maybe I said Allen Iverson, maybe I didn't. Those guys are incredibly talented offensive players, but they weren't able to quite put it together to, win a championship. And I know there are many other metrics for those specific guys, not being on the greatest teams, running into some amazing super teams over the years. But when you look at some of the greatest winners of all time, right? Tim Duncan, LeBron, Draymond Green, a guy like Draymond Green who, yes, you could say he's got Steph Curry, but if Steph Curry doesn't have Draymond Green for all those years, he is significantly limited on how this team can perform because of the defensive liabilities without Green on the court. We've seen it on the times when Draymond doesn't play. It doesn't always work out the best for this Warriors team. Now, Draymond said, those who don't believe defense is as valuable as it is, they simply just don't win. I don't think anyone's ever been hell-bent on caring about the opinion of those that don't win because your opinion equals zero. Obviously, a big statement for Draymond, talking out about a guy in Kevin Durant who has one. That's exactly what the reporters said. So I hear you, but Kevin has one. And Draymond said, guess where he won? He won here with this incredibly impressive defensive team. And the defense obviously was with the Warriors. Reporters said it was incredible. And Draymond said, absolutely. And if you look at the history of this Golden State Warriors team, 2014-2015 Warriors, only team in modern NBA history to be number one in defense and number one in pace. And I bring this up because it's an important reminder, folks, that this team can play with the pace that we want to play with, but also be able to play defensively stagnant. And it's important to understand that being a stout defensive team, a lot of people naturally assume that means sort of a slower pace. Yes, you're being scrappy, you're getting steals, turnovers, things like that, but it means locking in the defensive side of the ball, slowing things down offensively, and ensuring that you have a lot of energy for the defensive side of the ball. This proves the exact opposite of that. The 14-15 Golden State Warriors led the league in defensive rating. They also ranked first in pace at 99, which is just the amount of possessions that a team gets throughout a basketball game. And it's important to acknowledge this because this Warriors team does want to play with pace. Although we're slowing things a little bit down when Jimmy's in the game, right? We're not getting out in transition as much. This Warriors team is always going to be a fast-paced team. But how do we combat that? How do we allow that to mix with the defensive side of the ball and find a way to make those things become a true basketball union? Well, we saw it in 14-15. And when you look down the line for these teams over the years, the 2021-2022 championship team, shout out Andrew Wiggins for the defensive menace that he was that season, especially in the finals against Tatum and Brown. We were the best team as far as defensive rating went, tying the Celtics. Obviously, both of those teams make it to the NBA Finals. Another point, the other team from the East that made the Finals, guess what? They led the league in defensive rating. Steals numbers, blocks numbers, all those things were high for the Golden State Warriors. And then you go back to that 2015 season, same thing. The Warriors blew everybody else out of the water defensive rating-wise. They ended up being second in offensive rating to the Clippers. So, yes, they had a fantastic offensive team. But in order to win basketball games in this league, everyone can score in this league. Everyone has fantastic shooters around them. Everyone has impressive star players, right? You have guys that are bucket getters in this league. But the teams that win are the teams that can consistently get defensive stops, not only as a team, but you also have to have a defensive stopper on this on your roster, right? That's what Draymond Green has been for this team for so long. There's a reason that he's one of those guys that you look at his stats, maybe you look at the way that he plays and you go, man, I don't know. Draymond Green seems just like a guy that yaps a lot and doesn't provide a whole lot on the offensive side of the ball for his team. Guess what? He is probably the best undersized defensive anchor in NBA history. The way that he is able to mesh the IQ of the basketball of his basketball game alongside his defensive ability at 6'7", incredibly undersized, to be able to play against guys like last season against the 2-seeded Rockets, Alperen Şengün. Shut him down in that series. Şengün had a couple of good games, but Draymond had a really clutch stop towards the end of one of those games, consistently shut him down. And the biggest thing is, yes, you have to have guys a little bit that are those guys that are going to get in your head a little bit. And that's what Draymond has done at an elite level his entire career. But the reason that Draymond can do that, we've seen it with guys like Pat Bev. We've seen it with guys like Dillon Brooks. Those guys are antagonizers, right? Those are the guys that are trying to get you off of your rhythm and just be pesky annoyers, right? Those are who those guys are. But Dillon Brooks and Pat Beverly have never won anything. Those guys have never been winning at a high level because their game doesn't back it up. What makes Draymond so incredible is the fact that he has been such an incredible player for so long, while also allowing his talk to be backed up by that great play. Draymond talks more than anyone in NBA history, probably. He talks when he scores. He talks when he doesn't score. He talks when he gets ejected. He talks when things are going well. He talks at every single moment of the basketball game. But guess what? The reason he talks is because he gets defensive stop after defensive stop. He'll go down, hit a couple threes, yell the boom into the crowd. Heck, I got him right here. Where he's around here somewhere, the bobblehead. Let me grab him. Here he is. Right here. Look at this. Okay, I messed up the bobblehead a little bit. I hit the button like 3 too many times, but you get my point. People are gonna say, "Oh, you're a Draymond Glazer, right? This and that." But I will continue to be die on the hill and be frustrated with people who don't give Draymond the credit that he deserves. Now, has Draymond Green lost games for the Warriors because of his antics? Yes, absolutely. That Kings series, right? There were a lot of things that didn't necessarily have to happen in order for the Warriors to be put into that position. Now, if you want to talk about the Draymond Sabonis situation, right, and him being on top of him, people say stomping on him, whatever. I'm a believer, flame me as much as you want. If a guy's wrapping your leg up and you go to jump and he pulls it down and you step on him, I'm sorry. That's not necessarily on Draymond. Did it look really bad because he's a 200-plus pound NBA player landing on a big guy who rolls all around the ground and all that stuff? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But guess what? Draymond Green also won games in that series for them, and he has continued to be an incredible player throughout his career on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm inclined to agree with him that, yes, shooting and getting to the hole and having athletic dunkers and slashers and three-point shooters, all those things are incredibly important, but none of that matters if you can't get a stop on the other side of the ball. So why do I say that they leaked their plan, right? Why do I say that, oh man, it's just a random quote, but this is such a big deal? Well, a lot of times what we've seen from Draymond's podcast, what we've seen with him sit down reporters, he talks about a lot of different things, and immediately after those things are backed up on the court, immediately after, he finds a way to instill that part of the interview, that part of his podcast into his game. I remember specifically during that Kings series, he would come out and speak about a lot of things, and guess what? They ended up winning that series because even though Draymond was up on his podcast talking every single night, he backed it up on the floor. So what I expect from this, when a team is struggling early on the season, it's the veterans, it's the older guys that have to step up and be leaders for this team. We've had 2 back-to-back losses where Draymond hasn't looked great, Steph hasn't looked great, Jimmy's looked okay, Kuminga's playing well, but it hasn't been able to put it together from night to night. Well, now's an opportunity. You're 4-3. You've got another back-to-back. We are going to lean on Draymond. I expect us to go on a win streak here because I think Draymond is going to step up defensively and prove to the rest of the roster, organization, and the league that, hey, I'm still the defender that I've always been. And also, guess what? In these moments, it's when you rally. In the toughest times, right, is when you find an opportunity to elevate your game to where you want to be. It's a tough stretch, right? We're on the road, but now we have an opportunity to find a way to get a big win against a Phoenix team that we've had struggles with over the years. They don't have the roster they used to. KD's out of there, no CP Booker combo in the backcourt. So now's your opportunity, right? Find a way to lean on Draymond, lean on Steph, and use this master plan, right? Use this, hey, defensively is where we have to improve. We haven't shot it terribly. Some guys have had some decent nights, but defensively, if we can't get stops on Ryan Rollins and Quinten Jackson and all these other types, if we can't do that, we will not win any games. We haven't played horribly offensively over the last few games. Steph hasn't shot it great, but some other guys have stepped up. The reason we've lost these games is because defensively, we have not had an identity. I expect Draymond Green to be that identity moving forward, and I expect him to rally this team around him, around his leadership. That is the master plan that I expect to be executed for the rest of the season. Defensively, we saw it when we added Jimmy last season. This team has an incredible opportunity to be a very good defensive team. When Jimmy joined the team last year, we were highest in defensive rating for several weeks with that roster. I now believe that this team has the opportunity to do that. You have to lock in nightly. You have to find a way to be consistent on the defensive side of the ball. I expect this team to do that from the leadership of Draymond Green. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I've been Houston Ball. You guys have been the fans. As always, go Dubs. Peace.